and welcome back to the Baseball Development Hub podcast. My name is Trevor Powers, and I am joined, as always, on this podcast by co-host Dan Galati. Dan, day after Game 7 of the World Series, how are we feeling, and what are your initial thoughts after the Dodgers go back-to-back?
Well, it's always a little bit of a sad day. Baseball season is over. Daylight savings, the worst thing in the world happens, which means it's going to be dark by quarter of 5 o'clock now moving forward. We're into the depths of the winter. It's the worst time of the year. So it's always like kind of a scary morning to wake up when you know that baseball is done for the year. You got to wait till February for any kind of baseball, whether you're a big league fan, college fan. And you know that it's now just going to be cold and dark. But yeah, unbelievable series. What a just entertaining series. That's one of the most fun World Series we've had in a long time. I'm trying to think back to like the past 5 years or so. That might be one of the best World Series we've had. The Nationals Astros series was pretty sick. That also went 7. But this one was just incredible. You had the 18 inning game. You had all kinds of late lead changing swings. Look, the Dodgers are kind of inevitable, man. Like they are how long have you and I been saying to each other that the Dodgers are kind of pinnacle of organizations in Major League Baseball? It feels like it's been since, I don't know, 2014 almost that they've been this way. Now they hadn't won many World Series. Now they have 3 in the last 5 years. So it's a dynasty for sure. And when you look at just kind of how the organization is set up, how the organization is run, the names on their roster, none of us should be surprised that they've won back-to-back World Series. None of us should be surprised that this is their 3rd World Series in 5 years. They're the gold standard. And I know there's a lot of people out there who root for teams that don't operate the way the Dodgers do. So they do the one thing that a lot of fans love to do, and that is finger point and excuse make and push blame and say that the Dodgers are ruining baseball. And I feel like that's one of the things that if you're a fan who says that, then you're kind of eating the cheese that other owners kind of put out for you, unfortunately. Not to degrade any fans we have listening to this, but I think the Dodgers do things the way that every organization should aspire to be, and any person who can be rich enough to afford a Major League Baseball team, do not believe them when they cry poor.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a big talking point that's probably going to come and surround this Dodgers tenure, obviously. And you mentioned it. This is the first team to go back-to-back in the 21st century. The last team to do it was the New York Yankees in 98, 99, and 2000. We're a quarter way through the century, right? I know for us that 2000 turn of the century doesn't feel too long ago, and that Yankees dynasty doesn't feel that long ago. It's a long time, right? And it shows the parity that is within baseball, right? This is
A little
what?
disrespect to the Giants of the 2010s, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
but so that's where I was going to go
That's a
with
long
this
time ago,
is
too.
100%. And to me, what makes this Dodgers tenure so impressive, because I do consider that Giants stretch a dynasty, right? When you're able to win, 3 World Series in a stretch of time. What makes this Dodgers stretch of baseball so impressive, as somebody who does appreciate the 162, which I know you talk about a lot, and the ability to build consistent contenders and recycle through names, and they did it on the backs of money early, right? When they went and got Matt Kemp, Andre Ethier, and they dumped a ton of money. That was kind of the beginning of all this thing when Clayton Kershaw was young. And then they kind of flipped the script, right? And they started to develop in-house. They found guys like Justin Turner, Max Muncy, and they started to do that. And they got close, right? They had a lot of opportunities where they were losing late. They kind of became the banner of choke artist, and Clayton Kershaw was at the forefront of that. And they decided to flip the script again post-COVID and come out and spend a lot of money and go get the best free agency. And again, shocker, I saw people talking about this. Don't be surprised when they go nab Kyle Tucker this offseason, right? Like, just because they need help in the outfield and he's going to be the best outfield piece available. To me, that is so impressive to have a stretch from basically 13, 14, 15 to 2025, where not only are they in the postseason every year, they're consistently winning 100 games. They're doing it in multiple different ways. Sure, they aren't winning World Series in multiple different ways. They've only won World Series post spending a boatload of money and signing every good free agent that they could get their hands on. But that to me is the most impressive piece of this dynasty, right? Because you're right, it is a dynasty because even though they've only won 2 World Series, but it is 3 in the last 5 years, which in a sport like baseball, post CBA, post expansion, post all these things that are really put into place to create competitive balance, that's the most impressive part of everything they've been able to do because it's an aggressive mentality. It's not hold on to your prospects because they're cheap assets, right? They had no problem flipping prospects for, Kybert Ruiz, who was supposed to be the catcher of the future. Obviously, they knew they had Will Smith, but go get Trey Turner, go get Max Scherzer, right? Like go at the deadline. They're only getting those guys for half a year, year and a half. And that aggressive mentality is what's finally shifted this Dodgers team from 98 wins to 102 wins each and every year to being able to build enough depth and talent to be able to go 93 wins in the season, but know that you're pushing all your chips in the postseason and be able to win the ultimate goal of a World Series. Now, I don't think there's one way to win a World Series. I think that's such a misconstrued, which is what we're going to talk about a little bit later, about how the all World Series champs typically dictate the offseason moves and what teams invest in and things like that. There is no one way to win a World Series. But I do think that being able to have as much depth as possible, obviously talent, and being able to make sure those guys get their workload managed throughout the year with Phantom ILs, Glasnow getting healthy, all those guys kind of situated the way they do, and then being able to have that fall into place in the postseason is what's been most impressive about this Dodgers team because it has been consistently there. I mean, they're one cheating scandal away from potentially a 2017 World Series. You got a couple give or takes here hitting a hot Nationals team in 2019 where they might have been the team that came out of the NL and won that eventually. So it's been unbelievably impressive because the names have changed. The logo obviously hasn't, and the results have really been the same since 2015 outside of the World Series, which have now come on the back end of this stretch.
Yeah, it just feels like they've spent a decade being the best team in baseball, whether or not they've won the World Series. And now Astros fans, you could argue that it's been the Astros too. But now when you look at it, the Astros won a World Series in 17 and 22. Dodgers again have won 3 in 5 years. So for me, it's like I just look at the longevity of it. Yeah, I just they've been the standard bearer, and it's a big deal anytime they've gotten knocked out for the last 10 years. It's like a huge deal if they don't win the World Series because everyone kind of pencils them in as a favorite. And again, to me, they are what every organization should want to be because of what you just said. Like they spent all the money, then they started to develop and run their organization better. They found, guys on the margins. They started doing the things that the small market teams have done, the teams that don't want to spend a lot. And, they're right up there with like when you look at who are the best developmental organizations in baseball and you're talking about the Rays, right? And everyone's like not surprised they're the Rays. They don't spend a lot in free agency. They don't, they draft really well. They develop, they find guys, and turn them into, all-star caliber players that can get them into the postseason. And it's the Dodgers. And you're like, wait, those two organizations couldn't be different because the Dodgers, like, yeah, they do that. And like, you mentioned some names of developed guys, and it's like, yeah, they also developed, brought through their system and developed Corey Seager and Cody Bellinger,
Mm-hmm.
like guys who've gotten huge paydays in other organizations, and like those are Dodgers guys. And then they still do that, like they still bring guys through their system, but now they also throw the money at Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Shohei, obviously, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki, who has such a disappointing year and like spends 90 days in their minor league system in the middle of the year and comes or towards the end of the year and comes back as like a legit postseason closer. And it's just like that's just what they do. And when you look at it, like their depth of talent may not be 1 through 26. They're better than everybody else, but it's like 1 through 15, which is what you need in the postseason. I mean, you look at game 7 last night and like who pitched for the Dodgers? All of their starters that had
Mm-hmm.
gotten them to that point outside of Robleski, right? Robleski came in and got a couple outs after Shohei didn't have the start he wanted. And he comes in, gets out of that third inning, and I think starts the fourth. And then, but it's like Shohei, it's Glass now, it's Snell, it's Yamamoto to close it. Night after he throws 96 pitches, it's incredible. And again, like if you want to sit here and say it's not fair because the Dodgers spend more money in the deferred money, it's like they aren't like it's not like there's a different set of rules for the Dodgers. And you look at some of the other teams in baseball that spend at the clip the Dodgers do, why aren't they doing as well? Well, when I look at the Phillies and I look at the Mets and I look at the Yankees, and I'll stick to the Yankees and Phillies right here. Like, what's held the Phillies back the last couple of years since 2022? Well, they're relying so heavily on the offensive side of the ball on Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber. They don't have the guys that have been able to now like come through their system and supplant them, like Stott and Baum. Those guys haven't kind of developed into what they've needed to get over the hump. You look at the Yankees, and like, I don't want to pick on one guy because I think he gets picked on a little too much, but like Anthony Volpe was supposed to be a star. He hasn't quite delivered, right? And like the Yankees maybe also haven't spent outside the organization on the right guys to fit and kind of make them balance. Like when you look at this Dodgers team, they are so balanced. They can kind of do anything and they can beat anybody because no matter what style of baseball you play, like they're going to match, right? They're like, we can hold serve with anybody. Oh, the Phillies are super starting pitching heavy. They want to hit the long ball. They have guys. Well, the Dodgers go into that series and like, we'll match you starter for starter. And we'll turn this into super tight, low scoring games all series where hits in the late innings are going to win the game, win that series. You look at the Brewers. We're super athletic, right? We're super athletic. We put the ball in play. Like we have all these young guys who are kind of playing with a little bit of magic something this year, and the Dodgers just steamroll them because like, oh, you want to play the athlete game? Okay, well, we have the greatest athlete on the earth maybe, and a guy who can throw 102 and hit 55 bombs. We can play that game. We can small ball it up. We can do whatever we want. Play the Jays, high-powered offense that has a couple guys in the middle of the order who can hit the ball at the ballpark. They're going to make a ton of contact. We talked about it on our last show how impressive that was, the way their offense is balanced. Dodgers are like, yeah, fine. You guys want to score a bunch of runs? You want to do it this way? We'll do that too. It's just it really is like everybody is chasing them and everybody should be chasing them. And again, like they're the gold standard. Everyone should be trying to run their organization the way the Los Angeles Dodgers do. And like, yeah, maybe you can't pay all of these guys. I get that. Like you might not have that much money, but like you can pay enough to get guys that move your organization forward and develop at the same time. Like there's been for so long, at least, I don't know, I want to say in the last 15 years, right? That you and I have really been in the weeds of this stuff. Like it's always been like, you're either going to go buy the players or you're going to develop the players. You can do both. The Los Angeles Dodgers do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think even to emphasize too, it's not like Shohei's going to be the guy that so many people think about. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, but obviously they traded for Mookie first and then were able to sign him for a long-term contract. Also, what people don't give them enough credit for is Teoscar Hernandez they signed in the 2023-2024 offseason, right? He was coming off a year with a 741 OPS, a 435 slug, where he spent time in Seattle and played every day and just 26 home runs. He was a good player, right? Not a great player. So many people look at a guy like Teoscar in Los Angeles as like, how did they get him? Because then he comes back the next year, hits 33 pumps, 840 OPS, 500 slug, 270 average. It's like, yeah, well, every org could have had him on a 1-year deal, right? Like in 2024. And then obviously he didn't have a great year this past year. But like that's what's also savvy about them. Blake Snell didn't have like the historic, he obviously has had stretches in his career where he's been unbelievably dominant and he wasn't particularly
He was banged
healthy.
up a little bit last year.
Yeah. But that's Blake Snell to a certain extent as well. You're happy if you get 120 innings considering you even gave them 61. They didn't have to go sign him, right? And they understand that those free agent signings of guys that they trust in terms of their track record, they can get those guys below market. Sure, do they push all the chips in when they have an opportunity to get a Freddie Free, get a Ohtani, but being able to keep Max Muncy around for as long as they've been able to, right? Like there's so many savvy moves within the confines of spending money that allows them to consistently do what they do. Again, another piece that I'd like to point out is Emmett Sheehan got big outs for them. That's a homegrown player, right? So we can sit here and we can poo-poo how much money they spend, and it's bad for the sport, and it's the no different than the Yankees when there was no competitive balance rules and they were just throwing money around just for the sake of throwing money around. And I think that they are a lot more savvy than people give them credit for in how they go about the use of that money. And that's not just in deferrals and things like that. It's the ability to trust Teoscar Hernandez's track record and invest in that with an opinion that he's going to return to form. Right? It's an ability to trust Blake Snell that even if he gives you 61 innings, he's going to get you outs in the postseason. Right? Whether it's a game like the Phillies when he was dominant, he goes out and lays a couple eggs, but then he comes in relief and he's really effective and really good when it matters most. So that's another piece of the puzzle, I think, as well. And then the last thing I'll say, because I know you got something to say on this, the other thing they've done a really good job of is they aren't afraid to trade their prospects. And I know I said that already. The ability to have faith in your development for the next guy, your drafting, your signing, your international signings, your scouting, the ability to trust that, hey, we're going to trade our 1, 3, and 5 prospects and get really aggressive on this person that we think is going to get us over the top. Whereas everybody else clutches their pearls like prospects are the next best thing. And you mentioned the Phillies, you mentioned the Yankees. And again, I'm not here to have revisionist history of who Volpe could have been traded for or who Stott and Baum could. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just the belief that they'll find the next guy, and they know how important that guy is in terms of an addition to the clubhouse, to what their ultimate goal is. And it's just that belief that we don't have to clutch our pearls on 1 really good prospect or 3 really good prospects. And we're willing to give an extra bit because we know that A, we're going to find the next guy, B, it's a return on investment. So sometimes people don't understand, like, sure, you're going to trade a stud. I mean, they traded Michael Busch. Like, that return on investment has not been good for them. Michael Busch has been really good and effective in Chicago. They had no problem pulling the trigger and trading him because they believed that they were going to be able to replace Michael Busch in some way, shape, or fashion.
Yeah, and you mentioned trading Kybert Ruiz, who's one of the top catching prospects in baseball. Dalton Rushing. He's a Dodger. Like, oh, okay. Like, because exactly. Like, if you're, and that's always what drives me nuts a little bit about these organizations is they're so risk adverse, right? And so taking like the fear of not getting the return on investment of trading a prospect and he turns into a Michael Busch or letting a Corey Seager, whatever it may be, the Dodgers understand that there is a risk in not making those moves as well, which is what I think a lot of organizations don't take into consideration. Yeah, there's risk in signing Blake Snell because injuries and volatility and whatever it may be, if you're going to give him money, a free agent deal, for what he's looking for, what they end up giving him, what he's asking, there is a risk in that for sure. There's also a risk in not signing those type of players. Imagine if you don't have a Blake Snell. How much different does this team look? Does this series look if you don't sign him? Who's gonna be in that spot? Is Emmett Sheehan having to be the starter? Now you're one pitcher. Now you're bumping guys up the chart. Now you are having to lean on maybe a 40-year-old Clayton Kershaw who clearly was at the end of the rope when we saw him in the playoffs, right? Like just not doesn't have it anymore. Like there's risk in that. And that's what organizations don't, I think, enough times take into account is the risk in not making that move, not making that decision. You're so risk adverse, you're not seeing the other side of it because it's easy to say, well, we didn't sign it. You don't, that world doesn't exist. There isn't an alternate universe you can look at where you see it unless you look at the Dodgers, turn the Dodgers on, and there's your alternate universe. If you do go make that move, if you do go make that, Teoscar Hernandez, well, how many teams do we look at and say, man, they could use a right-handed hitting power outfield bat? Like you said, 2 off seasons ago, there was one who, look at his track record in Toronto. He went to a notoriously, offensive graveyard in Seattle where everybody's numbers dip off. I don't care who you are. And had a year where he still hit 26 homers. And the Dodgers looked at it and said, that guy fits a need. 29 other teams needed that bat. They didn't take it. The risk they took was not signing him. And so many times we don't look at that, and the Dodgers are willing to make those moves and sign those players. And it's just money. Like they have an ownership group who has a ton of money, and they realize that it is just money. Like at the end of the day, you can always work around it. Like that's what's crazy to me about these I mean, we're talking about professional sports organizations. You do not own one if you don't have the money to compete. I'm sorry. And like you said, there is such thing as a competitive balance. There is. It exists. And the Dodgers are just like, we'll pay it because it's just
Mm-hmm.
money. We can make
Yeah.
more. We can get more. We'll we'll sell a portion of our ownership rights and to somebody. We'll sell 2% of this organization. How much is 2% of the Dodgers worth? Look at that influx of cash they're just going to get in to be able to spend. There's ways around it. There's deferred money. Yeah, they've just done a beautiful job. I mean, again, and like every point you've made is spot on. Yeah, trade your prospects. We sit here and talk about it all the time. They're prospects. You realize
Mm-hmm.
how I always laugh at the people, and I don't want this to sound
They're
degrading, but like,
volatile.
yes, and I always laugh at the people who love the prospect stuff, right? Who
Yeah.
dive in and like can't get enough of the prospects and the rankings. We're re-ranking them, and that's great and it's awesome and it's fun to look at. And it's fun, but you're dreaming on them. Like then some of these guys come up, guys like Anthony Volpe, and there's a million of them, and you realize just how good the guys that play at the big league level are. And it's like, oh yeah, I looked at this prospect and I dreamt on how great he could be in the tools and everything, and it's fun, and I get that, but it's like then you realize it's like they're just prospects, and if you are as good as you think you are, like you said, you will draft in the next year a guy who you can get just as excited about.
Yeah, and to kind of play, because I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. I don't know necessarily if I believe this as much as I'm going to say it, but as I look through their 40 man and things like that, there's a couple things that I do want to point about that is a benefit of being as well off as they are. And you make the point that we're not going to sit here and compare, count the pocketbooks of rich, wealthy MLB owners of orgs, because you have to be really rich and you have to get into that position, even if you are, the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Tampa Bay Rays. The one thing that the Dodgers have the luxury of doing, because they have so much, I guess you could say money, but they've made good decisions here and there, is if Blake Snell signed with, let's just say, another team. I don't even want to pick out a specific team. I mean, I guess the Diamondbacks is a great example, right? They go and they push all the chips and they go and grab Corbin Burns because they don't have the depth that the Dodgers have. They can't afford to only get 61 innings out of that guy and still be a 93 win team, right? The Dodgers made a really bad decision in my mind letting Corey Seager walk. Their starting shortstop right now is Mookie Betts, an aging Mookie Betts, and their outfield isn't very good. This team would look really good if they just, instead of trying to piece and letting Corey Seager walk, who has had, who's almost been a better second half of his career player than he was in the first half of his career. This team would look a lot better if they just kept Corey Seager, kept Mookie in the outfield. Does that save Mookie's offensive abilities? All those things like that. Roki Sasaki, like the book's still out on whether he's going to be anything more than a high leverage reliever, or if he can actually be the effective starter a lot of people thought he could be. Now, when you have guys like Yamamoto, Ohtani, even an aging Clayton Kershaw who can go out and at least compete, you've developed the Sheehan, you've been able to go and get a Glass now, who's another guy who's dealt with injuries. Like, they're able to take risks on guys that are more injury prone, right? Like a Glass now, like a Snell, inconsistently prone, because of the nature of how they spend money, right? I do think that's a part that, but if you think that other teams can in fact do the same thing and build up the depth over the years, then yeah, heck yeah, that's definitely a model to follow.
Right, and that's my point. You can, and yes, like the Diamondbacks might not be in the situation. Like Blake Snell would have to be a 1 or a 2 for them. He's a 4 for the Dodgers, right? He's a guy that they can even nurse, and they don't have to carry a lot of innings. And like looking back now, like the Dodgers treated the regular season almost like spring training, right? They were super conservative all year because they knew they just needed to get in, and if they had their full complement of guys healthy, they weren't going to push anyone down the stretch. They weren't going to push anyone. Look how they handled Ohtani on the mound this year, like just nursed him back. He was throwing 1-2 innings, and they were getting him out. And like, yeah, you have to first build up the depth. You're absolutely right. But I think my point is they keep it's just money. So when they let Corey Seager go and he's an MVP caliber player and he's younger, it's like, yeah, we'll pay someone else to come in and do it. And that's where other organizations, again, they're so risk adverse. Is like they make one of those mistakes and it's like, we're not going to, we have to stop. We have to change how we're doing things because this didn't work. And it's like, no, you're not going to bat 1,000. You're not going to hit every shot. You have to keep taking them. You keep investing. Because if you're
Yeah.
not, like, to say that the sport would be better and to put a salary cap on things, I think is a little bit. I just think it's ridiculous. I do. I think that
Yeah.
there should be a floor. There shouldn't be a cap. I truly believe
Yeah.
that. I think the competitive balance taxes are fine. They're perfect because not everyone's going to dip into it like the Dodgers do. And, that's fine. But there should be a floor because the fact that you're not even willing to take the chances on some of these guys. What does it look like? Do the Dodgers win the World Series if maybe the Diamondbacks don't win 93 games if Blake Snell's on their team and he's not on the Dodgers, but the Dodgers win a World Series?
Mm-hmm. Well,
If
I even
if
think
uh,
too.
if the Cleveland Guardians, who would kill for a right-handed power bat, went and signed Teoscar Hernandez on a 1 year or on
Yeah.
a couple-year deal, would the Dodgers win the World Series? I don't know if the Guardians would have, but would it have been the Dodgers? Like, there's your parity that everybody thinks would happen if you put a salary cap on the sport.
Yeah.
It's out there.
Those are good. So, and to kind of go against my point too, is like it's a combination of everything, right? When you look, even including, I'm not going to sit here and nitpick on when these guys are going to pitch again or all these 60-day IL guys. But again, so you go through the Dodgers depth on the mound specifically. Like you can count up how many legitimate major league starters that have been effective at certain times. You got Glass now. Gonsolin, who I know again, a 60-day IL. Michael Grove has given starter innings. Andrew Heaney has been effective as a starter, right? Clayton Kershaw, obviously. Landon Knack, Bobby Miller, River Ryan, Roki Sasaki, Emmett Sheehan, Blake Snell, Gavin Stone, Yamamoto. Like, those are all guys. And again, some are IL 60s, right? Some are in these situations. Like, those are all guys that have been effective starters at some point in their career, whether they're pitching out of the pen for the Dodgers or not. It's because of the luxury that they have. Oh yeah, and Shohei Ohtani, who's really good as well. Not to mention the other thing. The funniest thing last offseason was when they signed Kirby Yates. You mean the same Kirby Yates that was on the free agent market and had no offers, and then the Dodgers were like, well, if you guys don't want to sign him, we'll come take him. And again, he didn't even pitch for them down the stretch, which is maybe that luxury of having the financial backing that they have and the investment that they have. But that's another guy that every other team in the league could have had. And when a guy's sitting out there for long enough, if you're the Dodgers front office and you go, hey, do we have $25 million to throw at Kirby Yates? Or whatever it was, maybe it wasn't 25 million, maybe it was a lot less than that. And they go, yeah, okay, let's go build up more depth, right? Like, that's the stuff, the savviness that you have to give them credit for. And again, you mentioned the name, right? Dalton Rushing. That's depth right there. You look through their roster of the guys, Ha-Seong Kim, right? Again, a solid player that's depth that might need to be a starter for another team. They grabbed Michael Conforto as kind of like the Teoscar thing. It didn't work out. He's not even active in the postseason pretty much the whole time. Pages was a homegrown player who struggled in the postseason. So we can sit here and we can nitpick how much the Freddie Freeze of the world, the Mookie Betts, and how much money those guys are getting. Well, but again, their season last night came down to Miguel Rojas.
That's what I was going to say. And like, how undervalued are guys like, right. What were teams clamoring for Tommy Edman before he became a Dodger? No, now everybody wants Tommy Edman but the Dodgers, the Dodgers didn't have to give up much to get Tommy Edman. And then you look at what Tommy Edman has done because the Dodgers, again, like you said, and yeah, I truly, truly understand that. Like, some of these players we're talking about don't make the same impact if the top of your roster isn't what the Dodgers have. Absolutely. But the top of the Dodgers roster are all guys they signed in free agency.
Yeah.
Or traded for in Mookie Betts, but the reason they could make the trade is because then they were willing to sign the deal that the Red Sox weren't. Like, there's no reason that
there's no reason the Red Sox, like, again, if that happened,
Mookie Betts not being a Red Sox is crazy, right? Like, he should have been a Red Sox for his entire career.
When Paul Skeens inevitably hits the free agent market, you will understand maybe where the Pirates didn't have what's probably going to be the $1.5 billion to pay Paul Skeens.
See, that's again, and that's where I disagree. Like, you want to know what's wrong with baseball?
$1.5 billion.
Sure. But what's wrong with baseball? Level. Do you know what are the biggest trade rumors right now?
No, okay, so that's okay.
Tigers are shopping Tariq Skubal.
Okay,
he should have a blank check in his hand.
Can I segue this then? Because that's exactly what I was going to say. The opposite end of that is and let's transition into the offseason, because I think that's my favorite part from my perspective, to talk about what's going to be the craze this offseason. What happens in Major League Baseball is every time there's a World Series champ, everybody follows suit, right? 2015, 2016 Royals stretch. Everybody wants to invest in bullpens. And then the Cubs win and everybody's homegrown, 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 right? And then we go through these ebbs and flows as teams, right? The Astros win and it's like high vert fastballs. And then, like, you know, we go through all these different ebbs and flows. So I kind of want to get your kind of perspective on what the offseason craze is going to be after seeing these two teams meet in the World Series and seeing how these postseason unfolded. But the epitome of that is exactly what you're talking about, right? Tariq Skubal, who is one of the best, no questions asked, the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. He's young, he's controllable, all of these things. The Tigers in Skubal's camp are $320 million off in their asking price. So while people can sit here and clamor at what the Dodgers do, what the Tigers are doing to Tariq Skubal is embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing that they're not willing to pony up the dollars necessary to at least make it competitive, right? Like, I would rather at least see like rumors come out, be like, yeah, the Tigers were comfortable with 350. He ended up getting 410 on the open market. Cool. Clean my hands with that. You made the point about Mookie Betts. The Red Sox reluctance to give that contract to Mookie Betts. The Red Sox, one of the most historic orgs in Major League Baseball and one of the most cash-heavy orgs in Major League Baseball, refused to give Mookie Betts the deal that sent him to Los Angeles. The Dodgers aren't doing anything overwhelmingly crazy, but they are zigging while the rest of the league zags, because they are checks and balances, plus and minuses. It's a business, whereas the Dodgers are invested in winning. And I think that's a really important piece, because you talk about Skubal's going to be a hot commodity in this offseason because of what the Dodgers just did and because of the starting pitching value that they put on it, and having a workhorse who's as elite as Tariq Skubal. And maybe a trade makes sense if they're not going to sign him long term. But I do think that is a very important piece, is to look at and give credit to the Dodgers, because we're not talking about these other orgs being 10 million off and these players being greedy. We're talking about hundreds of $1,000,000. I mean, again, Tariq Skubal's a $400 million player today in ink, no questions asked. If he gives another 2 good years, hits the open market, we're probably talking about 500 potentially, with how much of a commodity these pitchers are. And the Tigers don't even want to sniff the hundreds of millions that he is and the value that he brings, because that org has single-handedly turned, and there's been one guy leading it at the forefront, and Tariq Skubal being a Cy Young's a big piece of that.
Blake Snell led the postseason with 41 strikeouts. Trey Yasevich was second in the postseason with 39 strikeouts. They pitched all the way through to the World Series.
Yeah, Skubal.
Tigers got eliminated in the division series, and Tariq Skubal finished the postseason third in strikeouts with 36. You have the best left-handed pitcher since the Kershaw prime, right? And then before that, going back, Randy Johnson, in my opinion. That's the type of guy we're talking about. This is a guy that is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. This is a guy that we're talking about as could go down as one of the best, one of the greatest left-handed pitchers in baseball history. That's his ceiling, right? The things that the 2 years that he's had. Now, again, it's 2 years, like just like Skeens from the right-handed side. Like, it's only been 2 years, but they are on tracks. To me, they are neck and neck in how good they can be. Tigers, after the era of Miguel Cabrera in 2012, you guys have been in the basement of Major League Baseball. This guy has almost what feels like single-handedly pulled you back into contention, back into the postseason. You guys, they fell off towards the end of the year, but the way they got off to the start this year, they had the best record in baseball well into the summer. Blank check him. He does not leave. Like, this is who you, and like, I'm sorry, like, the people who complain about like, oh, you're paying him too much. Like, the Illiches who own the Tigers own another sports franchise. If you want to know how much money they have, they own the Detroit Red Wings, or they did. I don't know if they still do. I'm not up on my hockey.
And they cut costs because they hand out cardboard pizza.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just absolutely insane to me. Like, you can afford him. Like, and you're talking about like the eyeballs that Skubal brings, the jersey sales, the fact that like if you're competitive and Tariq Skubal's taking them out every fifth day, you're probably selling tickets and that place is full. You'll make your money back. You will get your return on investment. Maybe you won't make it back fully, but it's not like it's going to be some huge sunk cost. Like how you could ever, you are never, I'm sorry, like just the return on whatever you trade him for will never be enough to push you forward. Like it doesn't. You're in my mind, no matter what, I don't care. Just from a principle standpoint, you're taking a step back if you trade this guy, and that's the precedent that like you want to know what's ruining baseball. It is not the Dodgers and how they operate. It's the fact that we're even talking about the Tigers trading Tariq Skubal. The guy
I mean,
shouldn't pitch for another team. And like here, man, 10 years, $400 million. Yeah, have it.
best case scenario, best case scenario for a trade package for Tariq Skubal is the Juan Soto deal. Best case scenario. I'm just saying in terms of outcomes.
To me,
But
that
here,
sure,
listen.
but to me, that's completely
No,
different.
no,
That is
but
completely different because the Nationals were closing their competitive window when they made that
100%.
deal.
But let me finish my point. What did the Nationals just do this past season? They fired their general manager. They fired their manager. They're still searching for that identity. Your best case scenario
Right.
as the Detroit Tigers is to flip it for potentially 4 major league assets, right? Because again, we talked about this earlier. Prospects are prospects. They're lottery tickets. Sure, you
Right.
could hit on one, a James Wood, who becomes a potential superstar. Even 4 quality big league players
Isn't
that
right.
is the best case scenario in a trade, right? Like I'm just history tells us there has never been a trade. Like again, that might be go down as one of the best trades. Like that is the best you could get for Juan Soto, right? Especially for what he did in San Diego and obviously everything that he returned to them and then went to New York and he's bounced around since. So he's not even solidified for the team that he went to. So the Nationals won that trade. And you are still searching for your identity as an org, as the Washington Nationals. So if the Tigers can take any notes and say, well, that's the package we want, well, great. Your package still has you as a 75 win team searching for a new general manager and a manager. And 4 years down the road, while Skubal's out there making bajillion dollars and probably pitching for a World Series ring, right? So the situation that you're putting yourselves in by entertaining the idea of trading him, again, the best thing you could potentially do is net what the Washington Nationals netted, and they're still in limbo. They're still searching for that competitive window. They're still searching for those opportunities to potentially win and get to the postseason. And then on the Skubal side of things, right? What are the 2 most important things that if you could just blanket evaluate a pitcher, what are the 2 things that you're looking for?
A guy who makes 33 starts and generates a ton of swing and miss.
And what's the third? So availability, I didn't really think of, but what's the third?
Availability, swing and miss, and stuff. I don't know.
Strikes. Those
Yeah.
strikes. Skubal does that better than anybody. Like you're talking about a guy who walked 33 batters in 195 innings this year while punching out 241. 33 hitters. He spent the summer months and he went like it was like we woke up in July one day and it was like Tariq Skubal hasn't walked somebody since May 15th. And it's like you want, if there's anything that everybody would ask for from a pitcher, and this is what makes Paul Skeens a unicorn as well, and while we're transitioning into this new era of pitching where these guys have 240 strikeout stuff, but also throw it into red solo cups, which is just absurd, right? It's mutancy. Athletes that we have, it's DeGrom Kershaw dominance, is like if you could blanket tell me I have a pitcher that gets a ton of swing and miss and throws a ton of strikes, I would pay that man whatever he has because that is valuable. That is so valuable, right? We can't predict injuries. We can't predict inconsistencies. We can't predict home runs even, right? All of these factors that kind of come into play, batted ball luck, where the defense is playing. If you have a guy that gets a ton of swing and miss and throws a ton of strikes and doesn't give away free passes, at the worst, when those home runs or that batted ball luck comes into play, there's not free passes. There's not guys on the base pass because he's walked 2 and then he goes like that. Like that's what has held Blake Snell back his whole career. This is Blake Snell level stuff with strike
It's
throwing
better than Blake
ability.
Snell.
Yeah, with strike throwing ability. It's like
Yeah.
this is the prototype of what you want in a starting pitcher.
And look, I don't know if we'll ever reach these heights. Again, we're talking on the track, which is what everyone loves to do when they talk about prospects anyway. Like the track he's on, like his stuff is better than Kershaw's. He's better stuff than Clayton Kershaw did. So like think about the highs of Clayton Kershaw, because I would have to go back, and this wasn't a Tariq Skubal episode, so I didn't do enough research, but I'd have to go back and look at like where Kershaw was at this age and this many innings into his career and where Skubal's at and what he's doing. But like if I could tell you that the highs could potentially be Clayton Kershaw level, like you're saying, Kershaw in his prime, who's not signing up for that? The Tigers have him. He's there. You are
Well, and even
entering your
to a
competitive window.
larger
Like,
extent, you would take the risk of, again, like Clayton Kershaw was able to do, of like, I will sign this guy with the risk of him not having 99 to 102 in the
right.
tank, because guess what Clayton Kershaw did in the second half of his career? Adding the slider and becoming a 40, 33, 33, 33 guy and keeping guys off balance with 91, right? Like his ability to reinvent. Those guys are more likely to do that because of their ability to command the baseball, which tells me they have a lot more things going on from a proprioception standpoint, that they're able to adjust and able to adapt to the league. That 100% yes.
Right. Like, and like the way we're seeing, like, and Kershaw was never a power guy. I mean, I guess he was early in his career, kind of. It was fastball, curveball. But like, look at Zach Wheeler, right? And we've talked on here about the maturation of him and how as he's gotten older, like he's become almost more command than stuff. I mean, stuff is still insane, but the command is there. And it's like, you're telling me that if Skubal one day is only sitting 96, he's not going to add a cutter? Like, I probably believe that he could and he will. And like, he'll just like, he'll reinvent himself a little bit. And it should be a blank check. Like the Tigers should be spending $800 million this offseason, 400 to Skubal, 200 to, you know what I mean? Like every big name out there. Instead, we're talking about the Tigers potentially trading him. So you can do what? You trade Tariq Skubal, then what? First off, the knock on you has been the past couple of seasons that your starting pitching has been Tariq Skubal, and then we're not really sure. And so you're going to trade the one starter, and we just watched a team who, like you said, everyone copies the World Series champion. Well, the starting pitcher is going to be the most valued thing on the market this offseason. And like starting pitchers are going to be, I laugh to myself because, Rangers, a guy like Ranger Suarez is going to get paid like he is an ace. And I love Ranger, and I would pay him whatever he wanted because I'm just a fan. But like he's going to get an unbelievable contract this offseason because everyone looks at the Dodgers and they're going, they basically didn't use a bullpen this whole time. Their bullpen was their starting pitchers. And so the Tigers are going to pivot off that and they're going to go against the grain. Like, again, aggression. Like that's what I wish we would see more of in Major League Baseball organizations is aggression. Because acting like money, you can't operate through bad investments. You're stupid. Everyone does it. Every business does it. You can do it. I mean, and even more aggression, just across the board too. Like I look at the Jays and the fact that who's their best starting pitcher? Guy who made 4 starts in the major leagues before the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Like be aggressive with your prospects in both trading them and bringing them up and letting them play. Spend money. That if you want to take something from the Dodgers, that's what it should be. Spend money, be aggressive with prospects in trading them and bringing them up and letting them play, develop in front of you. There's so much risk aversion in major league organizations. And that's why I think everybody's chasing the Dodgers. And again, you have to have a really good organizational structure in place. And the Dodgers, what they haven't been afraid to do is like test the limits of doing things a little bit differently in development. But they've been really good at drafting. They've been really good at developing. They seem like they're completely on the same page as an organization, from like their minor leagues all the way through their major league organization. And if not, they'll just keep winning World Series.
Yeah, they're not done. The comparison to Clayton Kershaw, outside of Clayton Kershaw's 2016 year, where he walked 11 batters in
It's the dumbest thing ever.
149 innings. 11 batters in 149 innings.
Stupid good.
Skubal's strikeout rates are similar, if not better, than Kershaw's were at that time, and the walk rates are the same.
Difference is how old is Skubal?
28, and during 14, 15, I mean, they're
So
pretty
Kershaw was
much,
already what, though, 7 years into his career, eight,
yeah,
10 years into his
and
career.
he didn't really start to become that strike thrower that we know of, right? The first time he was below 2 walks per nine, which maybe is really good. Maybe I'm just looking at it from his perspective. Was that 26, 27 year, which has been the last 2 seasons that we've seen Skubal at. But yes, you're right in terms of he had multiple 200 plus innings, multiple 2.28 ERAs down that stretch, and the 26, 27 years was when he just finally became like, I'm going to get 300 strikeouts and I'm going to walk nobody, which is what Skubal's basically been over the last 2 years. It's been, I'm going to strike everybody out and I'm going to walk nobody, and kind of make people earn it. And that was kind of when he transitioned. But to me, crazy concept here, the fact that he doesn't have 6 200 inning stretches, 6 200 inning seasons under his belt at 28 years old means he's worth
Yeah, 100%.
more.
He has yet
Like,
to hit 200 innings. I mean, he's
yeah,
192 and 195, but still, like, he hasn't hit 200 innings yet. Like, this dude has so much pitching left. Like, this is a guy that we could be talking about until he's 36. I mean, you're talking
well,
about the
it's
next 8 years.
yeah. I mean, it's his rise to success is a little bit more DeGrom esque than it is Kershaw, because it happened so late. And
Right.
again, obviously, the thing you can't control is injuries. But yeah, I mean, DeGrom didn't, 22 starts at 26, All Star at 27, 28. I mean, he's actually ahead of what DeGrom was. DeGrom didn't flip that switch until he was 30 years old, when he pitched to a 1.7, and obviously was again kind of the similar thing where he's throwing a ton of strikes. And I mean, Skubal has better strike throwing numbers outside of what DeGrom was able to do post COVID, where he was walking nobody. And a little bit better strikeout numbers. So again, you're looking at, when we start throwing around those names, right, outside of injuries and inconsistencies late in the career, which is a risk you're going to take, whether you pay Ranger Suarez, whether you pay Tariq Skubal, or whether you
It's
pay
always a risk.
the fifth starter on whatever team, right? They're all a risk for injury. Go be aggressive with that. Dan, I guess the last thing, we kind of went a little bit longer on those two topics than I thought we would, is a little bit of praise for the Blue Jays. Obviously, another trend I think we're going to see this offseason is a lot of people investing in bat speed training, or people who have backgrounds at bat speed training. We've hashed out our thoughts on that. It's very good if done right. What the Blue Jays were able to do is do it right, right? And part of what made the Blue Jays so successful this postseason wasn't necessarily their bat speed training. It had a lot to do with the fact that Vlad was the best player on the field, not named Otani, each and every game, right? So you still need superstars. You still need guys to impact the baseball, hit home runs, and do that kind of stuff that's going to win you baseball games. But I anticipate a lot of teams are going to be having their players reevaluating what they're able to do from a bat speed perspective. And I think that's going to be a craze this offseason, is who can hire a hitting coach that's more in that background of what Popkins came from, and how can we get them in a position to train and do what the Blue Jays did, where we make as much contact, if not more, but it comes at the same time as creating more thump and creating more impact to the baseball.
Yeah, they were unbelievable, and they were an extremely fun team. They were just a really fun team to kind of watch, especially throughout this postseason run. Um, they were kind of like cockroach. They were hard to kill, right? And like it was awesome. And um, this is going to be a fine line for teams to for teams to thread right here. Like, it's going to be tough to thread this needle, because, like you said, you want to create the bat speed. You also want to make sure you still have thump. 3 Dodgers solo homers kind of beat you in Game 7. I think, though, like, and again, because we're talking about like how to proceed a little bit and off-season stuff here, is like I would also caution the Blue Jays. As crazy as that sounds, is like there was a little bit of a magic in a bottle type deal here, that, like, if you are banking on it, and this is why I would caution other teams who are going to try and mold their offense to what the Blue Jays did, is because I'm always going to be in the believer of balance. Like, I just want dynamic balance. Like, and yes, if you can limit strikeouts, it's great. But again, you can't trade thump. Like, the Blue Jays did this kind of on the backs of like George Springer's 36. Ernie Clement was one of the best postseason hitters we've ever seen. Like, I would say if I was a Blue Jays fan, I would be like that. You know, once the kind of disappointment of losing that goes off, is like, okay, we need to like, we better continue to push our chips into the middle and not think that like, hey, we're going to get the same George Springer, same Ernie Clement, same Nathan Lucas, who's a guy who spent 10 years in the minors and ended up hitting second in your lineup in the World Series. Like, that's not necessarily a guy that you can just be like, hey, he's going to do that again this year. I don't know how much repeatability, I guess is what I'm saying, is there can be. So you need to continue to make tweaks and adjustments. But they certainly, you know, Vlad's under contract. Yusevich looks like he could be an ace moving forward. It'll be fun to see him play the adjust, readjust game as teams start to kind of see him more. That's always kind of the thing to look out for young players. Is like, as the league starts to gather more intel on you, you're going to have to make adjustments, and then they're going to that's for the rest of your career. It's going to have to be that way. But yeah, they were a really fun team, and they deserve a lot of credit, and it was an awesome run. And, you know, they could have easily won that, just didn't go their way. That's why sports are so cruel, because you just, so many times it felt like this was their moment, like the Bichette homer, and tacking on late, and they load even like the heartbreaking home run by Miguel Rojas of all people, and then they load the bases with one out in the ninth, and you think, okay, they're going to walk it off. They just didn't, and the Dodgers just made one more play, one more swing than they did. So it's unfortunate a little bit, but I would say that if you're a Blue Jays fan, you hope that they now see how much fun that can be and how close they were, and continue to kind of push that roster forward and continue to make, big swings at things. Like, it's just so funny to me because these free agents come around every offseason, and I guess Kyle Tucker's probably the best free agent this year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And like within a week, right, we'll probably start doing this, and unfortunately, that will be the next 3 months that we'll be talking about it, because Major League Baseball offseason moves like molasses. But it'll be like, you'll hear like the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, and maybe like one or two surprise teams will be in on Kyle Tucker. And I just wish I lived in a world where all 30 teams were in on Kyle Tucker. Right? Like, why wouldn't it be, I don't know, if he's the best free agent available, why wouldn't you try and sign him?
Yeah. I mean,
but that's just me.
That's my biggest thing with the Blue Jays is I think this offseason was great. What they did this season was great. You're right. Their postseason numbers from some of their guys, I mean, a lot of 400, a lot of 500 slug, a lot of high 400 slugs out of guys that you wouldn't anticipate. I think they have a couple pieces that they can build around, right? George Springer turning back the clock and doing what he did this year, again, on the backs of the bat speed training. Great. Do it again. We know offense fades very fast and
he
very
played
quickly.
Through an oblique injury in the postseason.
Yeah.
It's like, of course he did. He's 36 and he just ramps up his rotational ability. It's like,
you have a centerpiece. Vlad is a superstar, and you're paying him like a superstar, and good on you for not letting him hit market, right? He would have been a free agent this offseason as well, I believe, or maybe next offseason. It was. I
think this also Bichette is a free agent, and it's like, okay, if you let Bichette walk, I hope it's because you're paying 400 or 300 or 250, whatever Bichette's contract is. I'm hoping you're giving that to a different guy that you feel is right.
Yeah, 100%, because they need to, right? Like, I don't think you can. I mean, again, there's some core pieces that they can build around. Varsho's found a niche as a swing decision guy.
I really like Addison Barger too.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good players, but those are guys that no different than the Dodgers had in the past, of the James Outmans of the world. That's a fine line right there with guys that stature and it's always going to be level. Yeah, 100%.
If you take anything away from this conversation, it's like, it's not as easy as we might be making it seem, and we understand that. We just think that you can take risks and then cover them up if they don't work out.
They have to be aggressive as well if they want to maintain this window. I think they have to be aggressive. They've done a good job drafting and developing. They got a young shortstop coming up that should be right behind Yesevich and obviously getting Yesevich. That's another
Cricket player.
conversation. Maybe we'll have that one of these days. I saw a lot of people. How did Yesevich make it to 20? Go look at that draft
Oh yeah,
and tell me who you.
I saw an A's fan respond to that and be like, "We're good."
Yeah,
It was
well,
like,
there's
yeah,
a
they
lot of
drafted Nick
teams that are
Kurtz.
good, right?
Yeah,
Like I
right. That
think
draft was awesome.
unbelievable. 2024 draft was unbelievable, and Yesevich is just another piece of that puzzle of like the unbelievable talent that we're all going to be able to experience over the next few years. I mean, the only one that I think, obviously, there's some high school guys that the book's still
You
out,
just
but
don't
even
know
the
yet.
Pirates, a Pirates fan was like, I think we're good. Connor Griffin, yeah, one of the best prospects in baseball right now. Not to name many at the Major League Baseball level, no. Outside of maybe Bazana, everybody's lived up to their draft billing in terms of what
Yeah,
they've been able to do so far, and I think that's going to be like we can have that conversation and relive the 2024 MLB draft class. But Yesevich as 20 was fair. It was a great fit. It was a great
yes.
job by the Blue Jays by taking it and putting him in a position, not pitching last year, to accelerate and move fast and understanding how his stuff works and the split finger and the fastball shape and how it works and how to use the split finger off of that, which has made him really good so far. But that class is really good, man. I mean, who who in that top 10 would you take? Obviously hindsight, but like on draft day, Burns, Smith, Kaggs, Kurtz, Condon,
Yeah, like look
Weatherholt,
at these names. Like, yeah,
Griffin.
Condon's one that you
But
worry about, but I wonder how much of
he
Condon
was
is one you
healthy and
worry
he's
about.
been good.
And I wonder how much of that one is like Condon or the organization.
100%. And he's been healthy, right, this year in the second half, and it's kind
Healthier,
of
yep.
healthier. And I mean, he wasn't hitting 40 home runs in minor league baseball, but he was effective. And a couple other guys. I mean, obviously Kurtz is superstar, and people obviously know that now. And he fell. He was an early pick at 4. Christian Moore's made his debut. The Nationals whiffed.
Weatherholt
Shocker.
looks like a steal at 7.
Yeah, I mean, even the guy right before Yesevich, Benj, has been really good. The guy after him, Culpepper's been really good with the Twins. Sinja's been really good. Cam Smith played in the bigs this year. Like Tibbs has been
James
traded
Tibbs been
twice.
traded 6 times.
Nuts. Maybe a missed
Which what
evaluation
a
there. Again, we can revisit the 2024 class.
Devers trade you flip for Dustin May.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
Which guess where James Tibbs now plays, everyone.
the Dodgers. And when he figures it out, then again, savvy. They're savvy. They take the name value. They know what to do with it. So Yesevich is a future piece to build around. I'm drawing a blank on the shortstop that they have.
For who?
Really good player,
Blue
though.
Jays?
The
Arjun
Blue
Namala.
Jays, yeah. Arjun Namala. Yep, really
Namala.
good player,
Cricket
too.
player.
Had a great year. So the future's bright, but they can definitely afford to be aggressive. Go get another superstar. Gaussman's getting older, and some of those guys that they relied on, obviously, you're not going to have Scherzer, even though he wasn't that good. All of those pieces in the puzzle. If they want to repeat in this success, they got to go out and be aggressive. So, Dan, any closing thoughts as we get out of here? It was a fun baseball season. It's going to be a fun post off season. Obviously, a lot of moving parts. We'll continue to be here. We won't talk much MLB free agency. It'll be more player development driven, but always got to hit on the current events in the baseball landscape.
Yeah. Excited for what's to come.
Yeah, really excited. We got a lot of trips planned, a lot of interviews coming out on the channel. So make sure you're subscribed, following on all social media. Make sure you share with 5 friends. It helps us out. And we'll see you next time on the Baseball Development Hub podcast.